The Johnsons bought near Jensen Beach for around $209,000 in 2017. By 2022, Florida prices spiked. Then came the twist: safety-driven assessments, higher HOA fees, and insurance hikes. Their options? Drain equity with a second mortgage, or sell and uproot their kids' school life. If you think this is a one-off, it's not. This is the new middle-class reality in coastal markets. Keep watching and I'll show you the hidden line items, reserves, capex, insurance volatility that turn affordable into unaffordable fast. You thought you won the game when you snagged that $209,000 condo by the water. Low purchase price, modest mortgage, decent HOA, clean math. You can almost feel the salt air and hear your budget whisper, "We got this." But here's the catch. That math is the brochure. The real bill lives on the building's balance sheet. Most buyers run 3 numbers and call it a day. Purchase price, principal and interest, monthly HOA. It looks tidy, it feels safe. Then the quiet stuff that actually keeps a building standing shows up like a subscription you forgot you signed for. After Surfside, the rules flipped. Structural integrity reserve studies, required. Adequate reserves for big repairs, required. The association has to collect real money now for concrete, roofs, waterproofing, and elevators you won't need today, but absolutely will need before the decade is over. The deferred maintenance you never saw? It's not hiding anymore. It's invoiced. Think of the shift like this. You used to pay for wear and tear when it broke. Now you're prepaying for the next 10 years of wear and tear, whether you like it or not. No, we'll deal with it later budgets. No wishful thinking. Reserves must match the projected costs in the study, so the options are simple. Raise monthly dues, levy special assessments, or both. Owners feel it in real time. The Johnsons' timeline tells you how fast the ground moves. The 2017 buy-in looks sharp. By 2022, values surge and everyone feels like a genius. Then the association faces a $3.1 million repair package. Split across units, you're staring at roughly $43,000 each, on top of rising insurance and fatter HOA dues. It's the kind of bill that doesn't ask how your year is going. It just arrives. This isn't a vibe thing. It's policy, insurance markets, and math colliding. When insurers reprice risk, premiums jump. When associations must hold real reserves, dues climb. When counties reassess during a price run-up, property taxes creep past wage growth. The condo you won at $209,000 morphs into a monthly burn rate that has nothing to do with your mortgage. You're buying into a building's future liabilities, not just a slice of tile and drywall. Here's the analogy that hurts. It's like scoring a used Tesla for cheap, then finding out the battery pack costs more than the car, and the warranty clock ran out last Tuesday. You still have the keys, you just don't have the budget. And you're not dealing with one big blow. The real villain is a stack of mandatory time-boxed costs. Reserve contributions step up on a schedule. Insurance renewals show up with new numbers. The reserve study points to concrete restoration by a date that's not moving. Miss it, and the building gets squeezed by lenders and insurers at the same time. Monthly, quarterly, annually, it compounds. So here's the thing. Price isn't the problem anymore. Unpredictable, mandatory capital spending is. The mortgage is the appetizer. The assessments, the reserves, the insurance. Those are the entree, the sides, and the surprise chef's tasting menu. And you can't skip courses. Owners feel cornered. Sell into a softer market and eat the loss, or stay and feed the reserve machine. Rent it out? Lenders and insurers have opinions about that too. And buyers with financing will ask for the study, the minutes, the whole paper trail. You're not ready for what's next. Because this avalanche didn't start with your budget. It started with a collapse, a legislature, and a mandate that turned every crack into a line item with a deadline. So where did this avalanche start? The answer is buried in a collapsed tower and a statewide policy sledgehammer. You're not ready for this twist. The same safety fixes that were supposed to protect everyone are quietly pushing average owners out, even if you're 10 miles inland and your building has more retirees than beach towels. Let that sink in. In 2021, Champlain Towers South collapsed in Surfside. The response came fast and heavy. Lawmakers didn't want another tragedy, so they built a system to catch problems earlier and fund repairs before concrete starts dropping. The intent was clean. The execution is expensive. The rules now bring two big levers. Milestone inspections check a building's condition at set ages. Structural integrity reserve studies map out what needs replacing and how much money it actually takes to do it. Both are designed to see the whole building, not the lobby paint job. And both turn guesswork into invoices. Then the tension hits. One-size-fits-all rules land on buildings from the 70s and 80s with thin reserves and owners who bought in when dues were low because that's how boards kept the peace. Now every hairline crack gets a date and a dollar figure. No wiggle room. No, we'll handle it next year, because the calendar is part of the enforcement. That creates a domino run. First, mandatory inspections flag work. Next, the reserve study says fund it for real. Boards raise dues or vote special assessments. Insurance carriers see the reports, step back, reprice, or exit. Lenders look at all of that and decide who qualifies to buy in. Financing gets harder, which means sales drag, which means the remaining owners carry more of the ongoing burn. And the timing was brutal. Florida saw a surge into May 2022. Prices ran hot. Then interest rates spiked and demand chilled while costs didn't. You had expensive insurance renewals, rising HOA budgets to meet reserve targets, and property taxes based on the high watermark. It felt like stepping on the brakes and the gas at the same time. Now there's an opposing view that's not wrong. Strict reserves keep people safe. Deferring capital projects for decades was the original sin. Kicking the can made units look cheaper than they were, and the bill was always coming due. The new framework forces honesty. You fund the structure, or the structure funds your stress. But here's the catch. There's talk about extending deadlines or building in flexibility for some buildings. Sounds helpful until you realize early compliance owners already swallowed the costs. They paid the higher dues and wrote checks for assessments to meet the first wave of dates. If the timeline shifts later, they don't get refunds. They just paid sooner than their neighbors across town. This is where the market morphs. Condos start behaving like quasi-luxury assets, not because of marble countertops, but because only high earners can float the volatility. You don't just need income, you need shock absorbers. You need to budget for an assessment that drops at the worst moment and an insurer that moves the premium like it's surge pricing. The new buyer filter isn't your FICO. It's your tolerance for CapEx risk. You're not only choosing a unit, you're underwriting a building. You're reading a reserve study like it's a prospectus and asking for meeting minutes like you're an activist investor. As one researcher framed it, the new buyer filter isn't a credit score, but rather a tolerance for CapEx risk. That turns middle-class owners into accidental speculators. They're betting they can outlast the deadlines, the renewals, and the next study.